Seconds. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we're gathered and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to the City Lifestyle Committee of the 18th of May, and I declare this meeting open at 9 a.m. sharp. I'd like to advise attendees in the room that the meeting's being webcasted and audio recorded, and I remind attendees to take all necessary safety precautions. Do any councillors have any leaves of absence to report? Excellent, it's great to see everybody here today. There being no leaves of absence, we'll now move straight on into the reports. Councillors, I draw your attention to item 4.1, which is the City of Logan Safe City Strategy and Action Plan. Before we move into item 4.1, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they wish to declare? There being none, I will now invite the Acting Community Services Manager, Ms Keely Larson, to please enter the discussions. Keely, you're welcome to speak to your report.
Thank you. Through the Chair, so this report presents the quarterly update from our Community Safety Program on the outcomes of our Safe City Strategy and Action Plan for the January to March quarter. I'd like to hand it over to Erin, our Acting Community Safety Program Leader, to go through some of the highlights.
Thanks, Kelly. Through the Chair. So within these 3 months, the Community Safety Program have planned and delivered numerous community safety initiatives. I've chosen 3 key items that I wish to highlight to you all this morning that were included in the report. The first being the delivery of the 2022 Safe City Logan Community Survey, of which a total of 978 community members completed over a 3-week period. The information gathered through this survey assists the Community Safety Program with identifying and understanding crime perceptions and feelings of safety across the entire city. Since this report was written, the results from this survey have been made publicly available via Council's website and were distributed to all of the councillors through the CEO update. Secondly, I'd just like to highlight that a total of 19 new cameras were successfully installed at 8 separate locations across the city during this period. This also included the 3 vehicle capture cameras that were funded via the Hooning Task Force budget, which is very exciting. And finally, throughout this reporting period, the Queensland Police Service confirmed that the Logan Safety Camera Program monitoring room has been utilised by police on over 7,000 occasions, has provided an enhanced intelligence received by police on the ground on over 6,000 occasions, and has identified and provided information to police in relation to 107 stolen vehicles. So I just wanted to sort of highlight that in particular today as well. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Erin. I have a question from Councillor Bradley.
Thank you through the Chair, and thank you for that brief highlight. On page 12 of the report, it refers to the cameras that you spoke about, the 8 cameras. That's the first I knew about it when I read this report. I'd appreciate if I could be informed what specifically has happened in Springwood Park, or is it just you have given feedback, or is it you've actually put a new camera in there?
Through the Chair, sorry, what page number was that?
12.
12.
Which is the report page number 9 of 12.
Oh, sorry, yes, thank you.
Through the Chair, Erin, it looks like it's an upgrade.
Yes. Through the Chair, sorry, yes, I was just finding it on the page there. Yeah, I believe that was an upgrade that we did through the ED&S branch, so Economic and Development. I believe they were the ones that paid for that camera installation.
Right. Is it possible to get some information about that, please?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bradley. That will be done. Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much for the report. I note that on Easter, Good Friday, the morons started coming into the community and doing burnouts in Berrinba Industrial Estate. And it was through some of these networked cameras that QPS was able to track their behaviours and prosecute or fine and charge a number of people with offences. So the cameras actually do a great job. They're not there to be Johnny on the spot every time a burnout happens in the community or something goes wrong, but they're certainly great data collectors for QPS. There is plans in my division to add to the camera network, and I'm sure that other councillors have been doing it in theirs as well. I just wanted to say thank you very much to your team for your patience when dealing with us, and particularly for antisocial behaviours that are happening in the community, and we're saying, why aren't the captures cameraing this, or why aren't QPS reacting quickly to it, and those sorts of things. The reality is, if they weren't dealing with someone flogging into their missus, they might actually be able to show up to someone doing a burnout on a street. So, yep, I get it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Do I have any other questions from any councillors? Thank you, Councillor Bannon.
Thank you, through the chair. Cameras are awesome. Because they're that good, everyone wants more of them. Because of the little flood events that we're having lately, when we do ones on, I email this, but it's quick. So with the ones, can we do ones on Camcab Road? If they're on a TMR thing, how do I do that one? Because where it floods at, you know, where the high and low next section of Mount Lindsay Highway is, because that floods, everyone's bombarding me on.
Excuse me, Councillor Bannon, are you talking about flood cameras or are you talking about safety cameras?
Same thing, they can use for both.
I'm
so
not sure.
I want to use that's what I'm asking. The safety cameras that I get through you guys, can I use that safety camera to do both purposes?
Thanks, Councillor Bannon, that's a good question.
So through the chair, the flood cameras that are live streamed through to Council's website are managed through one of the Rose branches, so I can put you in contact with who look after that. Our cameras absolutely could be used for the same thing, but just not the live streaming, which I suspect is what the community would be after. Yeah.
I beg your pardon, Councillor Bannon?
The way you do it on your social media is amazing. You know, you put all the cameras up. I was hoping I could use them for that as well and do the same thing for both.
Certainly the community really value it, don't they? So perhaps we can have a chat offline with the roads team and see what's possible. Cool. Absolutely. I know the community really do enjoy that feedback. Thank you, Councillor Bannon. Do I have any other questions from any other councillors? There being none, there's a motion on the board behind me. Do I have a mover for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. And a seconder for the motion. Thank you, Councillor Hall. By a show of hands, all those who are in favour. Thank you, councillors. That's been unanimously supported. Councillors, I now draw your attention to item 4.2. 4.2 is the quarterly reporting for the Community Infrastructure Program-based budget. Before we open discussion on this item, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they need to declare? There being none, I now refer to Ms Larson to open the public discussion. Thank you, Keely. You can continue.
Thank you. So through the chair, this is our quarterly report from our social planning program on our community infrastructure program-based budget for the January to March 2022 period. I'll now hand it over to Noelle, our social planning program leader, to provide the update.
Thank you, Kelly. And through the chair, this is our third report on the annual action plan for our community infrastructure budget. As per our other reports, we flagged that this strategy and budget was reported done in a point of time. Anything that has impacted the projects will do that, and there's other opportunities for people to bring projects in through our unfunded opportunities process. But I'd like to take the report as read, but highlight a few of our great projects that are underway at the moment. I'll lead off with the buzz at Yarrabilba. We have roofs, we have walls, we are getting to actually putting in, windows, and we are slightly delayed in the construction, but I need to commend the CIP because they are just being fantastic to work with and really keeping us up to date. But we are minimising those delays to construction by doing fit out on a pod by pod basis and really doing a lot of work in the background. So while that's happening and the building and the diggers and everything, my team are working on the other stuff, which is finalising the operators agreement, getting our partners on board, and we all agree. So we have 6 partners. It's a great piece of work we are doing. We are also have selected all the furniture and fit out for the thing. We're looking at IT options. We're doing signage. And we also have leases, and we're doing leasing discussions, and we're getting ready to gear up and go out to tender next month for an operator for 2 of these things. So there's a lot of stuff happening. We are looking at opening in the second quarter of next financial year. So, you know, that's between October and December. I'll leave it like that. We are really looking forward to this flagship happening. It's a one of a kind in Queensland. It's a pilot. It's all happening. So, but we're very excited, and we have photos to share, and we share them regularly with Councillor Kransky. The next project I'd like to talk about is the Wilbur Street Youth Centre. We have completed our co-design workshops with young people. It was a strong consultation engagement process. We had over 300 engagements during this process. We included children and young people from high schools within the Logan Central area. We made sure it was inclusive, so that included young people from the special school as well. This is an inclusive space we are planning. We are at the stage where we are getting basic concept designs drawn up and functional briefs drawn up and providing feedback to that. And once we have the finalised feedback, the costings, the indicative costings, will be able to be ready. From there, we'll get our draft functional brief, will be finalised, ready for design stage next year. So we are tracking along pretty well there. We're looking forward to taking Councillor through the drawings next week. And the final one that I thought I would like to give an update on is the Benley Aquatic Centre. This project is underway. We have a project group, and we are picking it up, and we are running hard with this one. We're investigating funding opportunities, and we're also we've done our community consultation plan, and we're ready to go out. So we've actually started some consultation with the workers in the site. We're looking at the site as an overall cohesive thing. So it's not just an upgrade of a pool, it really is an upgrade of the area. So that takes into account the park and car park, and how to get the best opportunity and really drive people to keep our existing users in there, but drive more people to it and make it a really wonderful space that really delivers more to the community of Benley. So, any questions?
Thank you, Noelle. Have I got any questions from anyone? Thank you, Councillor Bradley, and then Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you, through the chair. I just want to publicly thank you for all the hard work you're doing in Springwood, and I look forward to you actually highlighting that in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bradley. Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you. Just wondering if you can give me an update on the land transfer for Flagstone Community Centre.
I can, Councillor. We'd actually flagged this for an update as well. We are working with ED&S, EDQ and Pete. So we've started the title transfer process. There were a few unresolved items as part of that process. We've negotiated with Pete to be able to get a sealed access road, and we're currently awaiting confirmation of the bonding of works. Once that happens, the title can come through, and the developer has assured us that we should be able to get the land by the end of this financial year ready for us to build upon, or to start designing upon.
And how is the road access going? Have they started that yet down there? Because I know that that's hinging on us getting the land so that we can go through the design process and then build it. So has that road started?
We just got confirmation last week that it would be a sealed road. That was one of the things that we were going backward and forward about, access for people saying the land's here. There was no road. There was no confirmation of a sealed road to access the land. Hence us working really strongly with our ED&S colleagues and EDQ. So we got confirmation of what the road is going to be actually paved, and but I haven't had an update, but I can update you after this of when that is happening, Councillor.
Excellent, and I would just like to say I'm really thrilled to see how the buzz is progressing out in Yarra-Bilba. I actually had the opportunity to have the acting SL&F manager out there the other day to have a look at the facility as it's coming out the ground, and it's really something quite impressive. I recognise there's been a little bit of slippage in terms of time, which is hardly surprising given the amount of wet weather that we've had. But one thing I did want to say is congratulations to your team who've been really working hard to drive that dollar further while we're seeing such a massive shift in building costs, and I know that you guys have been very, very particular about trying to get that project delivered on budget, and I really respect the hard work you've been doing there, and I can't wait to tour the facility. So thank you, Noelle. And just in closing, I just wanted to say how excellent it is to see so many major projects in train at the same time. And that was the intent of this project, was that we recognised that we would have different projects that would be at different stages, and we're starting to see that filter through in your reports. So like Councillor Bradley, I look forward to seeing some other projects starting to filter through as well. So well done, team. Councillors, there's a motion on the board behind me. Can I have somebody to move the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Seconded by Councillor Hall. By show of hands, can I see all those who are in favour? Excellent, thank you, councillors. That has been unanimously supported. Councillors, that brings us to the end of the Acting Community Service Manager's report. Do we have any general business for the Acting Manager? There being none, Keely, do you have any GB for us?
Through the chair, I was only going to provide an update on the Flagstone Community Hub, but Noelle has fantastically covered off on that, so nothing further from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Keely. Thank you, team. Appreciate your support. Councillors, I now draw your attention to item 5.1. 5.1 is the Community Infrastructure Program Quarterly Report for the second quarter of 2022. And as the Acting Sports, Leisure and Facilities Manager, Mr Ben O'Brien, makes his way up for discussion, do we have any councillors who need to report any conflicts of interest? There being none, I'll now pass you over to the manager, Mr O'Brien, to present his report. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, councillors. The January to March quarter has been a challenging period for construction, as you touched on Madam Chair just now. We have seen extended wet weather, and we've tried to provide some of that data in the report, and we'll try and continue to provide more data and metrics into our reports going forwards. On top of that wet weather, it's been hard to get momentum or continuity of works out there. It's a bit of a stop-start environment. We have had the floods, and that's impacted, I think, about 25% or 58 of our sporting and community facilities across the city, and that has also had impacts on our construction sites as well. We're also continuing to see, and it's declining, but still seeing resourcing impacts via COVID and across our staff and our contractors, and we're seeing still supply chain impacts for select materials, and the escalation in price in the market is certainly creating an environment that is tough for our contractors, as some of these contracts have been open for a little while now. Despite the glim outlook for the January to March quarter, I just want to take a moment to thank staff and contractors for their perseverance and resilience to still push ahead to provide service delivery and try and find outcomes and progress projects, and we are exploring many ways to try and advance different work fronts to try and either catch up time or guard the program against future or ongoing weather delays. On that note, I'd just like to provide Council with an update on the Logan North Pool. We are, at this point in time, with the information we have at hand, looking to have that for completion in October. We are hoping that it will be open for the start of the school term 4, which starts to become our busy period for the Leisure Centres program. We will be working with stakeholders, contractors, to try and identify which work fronts we can try and bring forwards as a possibility to offset any further wet weather. The Logan North Pool, being a completely open site, does just become very affected every time it does rain. We're currently at the stage of trying to undertake tiling, and we do need dry surfaces to tile, and we can't create that dry surface. But we remain positive that is where we're looking at. The team will be preparing comms for our website and for social media, and we'll be happy to share with councillors to provide updates to the community on our revised timeframes, and then hopefully a platform to provide ongoing updates as we try and bring this project to fruition over the coming months. The other project of note I'd like to bring to Council's attention is the Kingston Butter Factory project. We're hoping by the end of this month, or around about the end of this month, that we'll have lift certification and building classification to have the Living Museum of Logan part of the building and the Butterbox Theatre part of the building completed. Once that's completed, there'll be a period of time where those businesses, for lack of a better term, will require to move in. That might take 6 weeks. So that's looking really, really positive at this stage. Outside of that, we have recently completed the Jimboomba Park kitchen and Jimboomba Park netball courts. And I do note the Cornubia Park Sports Centre rock climbing wall will be completed in the coming days, which is quite exciting. Outside of that, happy to take questions.
Thank you, Ben. I've got Councillor Raven, Councillor Bradley and Councillor Lane. Councillor Raven.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not entirely sure it's a question for Ben. Might be more of a caddy question. So, Report 4.2 and 5.1 are both quarterly reports for Community Infrastructure Program. One has base budget whacked on the back. They're obviously different though. Like one is about the funding and the other one is about the delivery. But then, which makes sense because Ben's team builds stuff and the Community Infrastructure team like plans and funds it, yeah? But when we get into Ben's report, we see stuff that's from LIP and from Community Infrastructure Program-based budget, and it just all turns into a bit of a mess. If I was a member of the community trying to understand what's happening and where, these reports look almost identical with marginally different names and overlapping projects. So, and I know Ben didn't speak to the Yarrabilba Community Centre, but it was in the previous report and it's in his report. So I don't know if it's just a naming issue, but it's just, even for me reading it, I'm like, I don't understand why you're, and I know it's been a hard quarter with rain, completely get it from construction. Are you just putting extra photos in so it's a bigger report? Or can we separate them so that it makes more sense about what sits where and why, so that when the community hears from Councillor Murphy about the Benley pool, they understand that that is the Community Infrastructure Program based on the CIS. That's this big $20 million a year program that Council's going to be rolling out for 20 years, right? That's a big deal. That's a much bigger deal than LIP. I love LIP, but LIP is a drop in the ocean compared to that. And putting them in together, people will look at it and go, well, how come Yarrabilba's getting a $7 million community centre and Marsden gets a $300,000 undercover area? You know what I mean? Because they're not of the same level of delivery. So, and it makes it look as though some parts of the city get very little and other parts get a lot. When that's not the case, we do spread the love around. But when you put them both together side by side and make them look like they're part of the same program, yeah, I just don't think it gives a very good perception of what councils are doing in their area with their LIP. I'm happy for the CIP to give me extra money for my LIP project, so to make them all $7 million.
Thank you, Councillor Raven, and through the chair, it's excellent feedback. Perhaps, and you're advocating for the community and what the community would experience. They don't know that we have a community services branch and a sports leisure facilities branch, and we have a social planning program and a community infrastructure program. Perhaps in future reports, for the next quarterly report, we could look to see whether we could actually merge these so that we can have consistent information for all the councillors and for the community.
Yeah, either merge them or separate their names a bit more. So one is clearly the $20 million massive rollout of community infrastructure over the next 2 decades, which is a great, I think we should actually be celebrating that as a standalone report. I think that's really important. But then, the other one may just be the delivery of that. So the planning might sit in one patch and the delivery in another. But I just don't want my dinky little $300,000 lit project sitting next to a $7 million behemoth and people going, oh, is that all Marsden gets?
Thank you, Councillor Raven. And Councillor Raven, can I just say that we've had discussions, the director as well as the managers plural, and I with regard to how we can actually align this better over time. And can I just let you know that there is some work in train, and the things you've highlighted today are the things we're actually working on. So I recognise what you're saying, and there's no dinky projects in Marsden. They're all marvellous projects. I'll now move on to Councillor Bradley. Councillor Bradley.
Thank you so much, Chair. I'm very grateful for the visuals. I'm not a very visual person, but sometimes pictures say a lot. So so thank you. Just on page 37, you refer to Logan North Aquatic Centre. Whilst that's not in Division 1, I have recently had a few inquiries which I've sent to you about it. And I haven't been there for a while because I'm no longer a member of the gym, but I may go back soon. But I'm just curious, is there any opportunity to have some sort of signage or something at the front if that's why people don't know what's going on, there's no updates? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been there for a while, so I don't really know.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Bradley. That can absolutely, I think that's a great suggestion. That can be form part of our comms package that we're putting together for the community. We do certainly acknowledge that in the recent week or two we have fielded questions from numerous communities and we've been liaising with council, so we can definitely, for the people that are turning up there, definitely provide signage, informing them of our anticipated project completion timeframes and potentially information to direct them to where they could find out more information from our website and so forth, to complement what we will try and put out through social media as well. So thank you for the suggestion.
So is that where I could find information as well on the website of when?
We're preparing that at the moment. So we have got limited information up there at the moment. We're hoping to provide much further information because we certainly hear the communities seeking a bit more detail about where the project's at. So
yeah, even if you had a QR code or something at the start, at the entry or whatever, I don't know. Just a thought. Thank you.
Councillor Bradley, I think they're excellent suggestions, and I've been feeling some queries about the pool also, and I think the public would understand if they were brought on the journey about why the tiling is an issue. I woke up this morning and thought, well, we've got another delay today. So thanks, Ben. If you could please keep us updated when those comms go out, that would be great. And if signage is something that we can achieve, can you please keep councillors in the loop on that one? Thank you. We'll move on to Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much to you, Madam Chair. Ben, the KBF launch was absolutely amazing, Director, absolutely amazing. One of the greatest feedbacks, though, is that we don't seem to be able to identify the museum. People walk past it and go, I wonder what that building is. It looks benign. It has no soul. It has no nothing. And I'm wondering whether or not, as part of the process, that we're going to have a beautiful big bold sign that says Logan City Historical Museum, and whether or not we're looking at actually putting feature painting on the front of the building to actually doll it up as much as we have the KBF. I would hate to see probably such a landmark area be let down by a bland building that has no signage on it. Can you advise when signage will be coming for the museum, please?
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Great question. We are currently sourcing quotes for wayfinding signage out at that site at this time. So we're hoping that we'll have that certainly in the coming months in preparation for the Butter Factory's launch. But that is, yes, we are working on signage. As far as the mural goes, that's something we can have a look at, but we are looking at naming and wayfinding signage. We're just sourcing the quotes and getting it manufactured.
Is wayfinding signage just little arrows pointing to different places, or is it actually a name that's put on a building that identifies it clearly? And any of the stuff that goes on the building, my understanding is it has to comply with our colours for council, because that's part of our branding. I'm not quite sure why we feel the need to brand everything with pinks and oranges and purples, and yep, that's what the museum was told. So if we can please have a look at that, that would be magic. And if we can liaise with the museum on a beautiful tribute that as you walk into KBF, you actually know what it is at a glance, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Certainly, the signage will be a combination of standout feature naming signage, but also they'll be complemented by a number of wayfinding signage to tell people where things are. But yes, we can look into that, yes. So, thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Lane, and the Director's got something she'd like to add.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, the branding, we recognise that the museum has their own branding and has a right and deserves to have their own signage there. So I'll follow up with the team specifically about what branding and how we can actually advertise the museum so that we get some really good occupants to some really good visitors to the museum. It filled me with pride this morning when I drove past the KBF, and I can see the whole place is open and activated with the complementary wayfinding with additional signage. I'm sure that in future months this whole entire site will be so well activated.
Thanks very much, Director. The museum has actually gone above and beyond in opening for every event that we've had there, making sure that their doors are open, that their volunteers are there, that they're happy and cheery, so us giving that back to them would be amazing. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I have a question now from Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for your report. I just wanted to say thank you for your service for the current 2 projects in Division 12. I saw the plans for Chris Green Park yesterday, and that's been a combination of funding of LIP and federal funding and then council itself. The club is really super excited and we can't wait for that to start. Do we do any signage while the construction is underway? Is a question. And secondly, the Mallet Club, the members are super excited about getting another 2. The pre-work has been completed and multiple branches have worked on this. It's been a lot of moving parts and I thank you for your service. But do we do any signage saying, hey, we're under construction, look what's coming, this is new, any of that sort of stuff on the sites?
Core flute signage, say if a site's established with temporary fencing around it, we can arrange for core flute signing, whether the messaging is around, typically in the past on projects I've worked on, we'll have a concept design on the sign to say this is what we're building, with potentially some time frames. We can certainly look at putting out core flute signage around the worksite when it happens. That's not a problem.
I think that would not only advertise councillors forward thinking with regards to infrastructure and what's happening, because there is a lot happening, we're all working very hard for our divisions, but it also gives some sort of communication. People like to go and have a look at things, so if that's up there, that'd be great. Thank you.
Councillor Murphy, I actually think that's a great suggestion. I know that with all the building works that are going on out in Yarrabilba, we see a lot of scrim from the state government, and the state government scrim will advertise the new school site opening 2022 or something like that. I think some core flutes would be fabulous if you can arrange it, because so often residents come to me and say, what's going on here? What's this about? And I think that would be something that the community would appreciate and probably wouldn't provide too much of a cost. But if you could look into that, Ben, for the team, I think that would be excellent. Councillors, do we have any other questions for the Acting Manager? Thank you. Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you. So, Ben, I noticed the photo of Tudor Park, obviously with the floods that went through recently. I guess my question is, in terms of these sorts of facilities that do go under in floods, are we able to, I mean, I understand with insurance companies it's like for like replacement and so forth on things, but for example, the air conditioners, I believe, went under again this time, and it's about a 6-month delay to actually get new air conditioners through. So is there steps we can take to make them, put them up higher, or, you know, what I'm trying to understand is, are we looking at ways to maybe mitigate some of the risk for flooding in the future on facilities that maybe do go under on a regular basis, so that the people who use these facilities aren't out for as long as they probably are? I just want to see what's being done in that space.
Great question, Councillor Stamp. It all depends on the degree of the damage of the facility. So if it is minor damage, then yes, I think the maintenance team will be out there to repair and have it activated as quickly as possible. If there is significant damage and yes, a high risk of happening over and over again with considerable cost to replace, then I would like to think the capital delivery team will be investigating, and I don't love the use of the term, but future-proofing or increasing its resilience in future such events. That would clearly delay the rectification of that building for community use, but we would certainly be looking at what we can do. It would then probably most likely turn from a maintenance project though into a scheduled capital delivery project, because if we look at raising buildings, which you can do, it then requires architecture and design and so forth, as opposed to sort of lifting shells up within the facility. But yes, you're right, that can be done.
can we maybe have a chat about this offline? Because, for example, with the air conditioners, we're talking about just they're out there external, they just need to be lifted high. So we're sort of talking about big construction here, but just things I think would help for the future. And I'd really I understand when I had a chat to one of the other council officers about like-for-like return, but it just makes sense to at least probably try and assess some of these things to make sure we can hopefully save some money in the future. So.
Thank you, Councillor Stemp. Yes, you're correct. Lifting air conditioning units, yes, that is certainly something that we would be strongly looking at. You're absolutely right, and happy to take that offline.
Certainly would appear where these flood events are becoming a bit more frequent, so I appreciate the question, Councillor Stemp. Councillors, do we have any other questions for the Acting Manager? There being none, you'll see a motion on the board behind me. Can I have somebody to move the motion? Thank you, Councillor Hall. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Bannon. By a show of hands, all of those in favour? Excellent. Thank you, councillors. That has been unanimously supported. Councillors, I now draw your attention to item 5.2. 5.2 is a confidential report. It's the Cornubia Park Sports Centre Gym and Rock Climbing Wall tender for commercial lease. Before we open for discussion, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they wish to declare? There being none, I note that this item is considered necessary to take the discussion into a closed session as the confidential attachments include information about the current lease arrangement, including details of the current lessee and financial data. Do any councillors wish to move into closed session? There being none, councillors, I'll just remind you that we are in open session, so please consider your questions carefully. But in the meantime, what we might do is pass over to the manager. Ben, if you could provide us with your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This report seeks resolution to go to tender for commercial leases over the gym and the rock climbing areas of the Cornubia Park Sports Centre. The current lease expires in October, I think at the end of October, and to ensure continuity of service to the community for that gym space, we need to be releasing a tender to the market prior to 30 June. The current lease has been of great benefit to council and the community by activating this space, and we are certainly hoping with the recent works to the rock climbing wall and the addition of adding this lease in, that it will further activate this great space. And as discussed in the previous report, the rock climbing wall works will be completed in the coming days, so certainly aligning with the time for releasing these leases to tender. We will structure the tender so that we will seek potentially 2 leases, one for the gym and one for the rock climbing wall, to look for a market who can best activate both spaces, but we'll also be open to receiving tenders if someone wants to activate both. Happy to take questions.
Excellent, thank you, Ben. And I've just wanted to confirm that I understand that the area councillor is abreast of the report and has been briefed on this report prior to coming to committee today. Is that correct, Councillor Stemp?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Excellent. Thank you, councillors. Do we have any further questions? Thank you, Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the chair. I just note we're not in confidential, so...
That's correct.
Are we going to go into confidential?
Councillors did not support moving into confidential, okay. Councillor Bradley.
Oh, well, I won't say...
Councillor Bradley, if you have any questions, I would encourage you to engage with the manager offline. And my apologies, I think you were out of the room when we moved in, that we wouldn't move into confidential. If you've got any burning issues and you'd like us to reinvestigate, I'm happy to. No. Councillors, do we have any other questions? There being none, there is a recommendation on the board behind me. Could I have someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Stemp is happy to move the recommendation. Seconded by Councillor Hall. By a show of hands, all those in favour? Thank you, councillors. That has been unanimously supported. Oh, my apologies, Councillor Bradley. I didn't see you there. Councillor Bradley, with the exception of Councillor Bradley, could I see a show of hands? Is everyone else in support? I'll just correct the record. That's been unanimously supported with the exception of Councillor Bradley. Councillor Bradley, how do you vote?
I'm abstaining because I didn't get an opportunity to ask my question.
That will be noted. Thank you, Councillor Bradley. My apologies for the oversight, Councillor Bradley. Thank you, councillors. Well, that brings us to the end of the Acting Manager's report. Do any councillors have any general business for the Acting Sport, Leisure and Facilities Manager? Thank you, Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much. This is more of a bit of a plug. I came to you with an issue of concern that would have cost council tens of thousands of dollars to rectify in one of our local establishments, and you listened and your team acted, and I just want to say thank you very much. You have saved thousands of dollars for the moment, but common sense approach is greatly appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you to Aaron as the Leisure Centre's program leader and his team for having a very pragmatic approach to getting an outcome for the community. Thank you, Councillor Lane.
Excellent, and welcome, Aaron. We haven't thrown any curly ones your way, but hold on to your hat. We'll move on to Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. I want to echo the same. Since you've been in the role, acting in the role, Ben, I've been super impressed, so thank you. You've actually helped me with a mega issue as well, so I am very grateful for you, not only your ability to listen, but also to think outside the box, so thank you.
That's great feedback. Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Do any other councillors have any general business for the Acting Manager? Ben, do you have any general business for us?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.
The director may do. Okay, I will talk. Sorry, my apologies. Our director there has the programs for the Kingston Butter Factory and the LEC for this third of the period. Going forwards, what we're hoping to do is bring a report to council in advance of the each season before it's released, so that the councillors are very aware of the level of programming that's now being undertaken at our two entertainment facilities, and that we hope that you can certainly utilise these to promote these wonderful facilities and these programs out to your communities, as we recognise you all have very strong platforms and connections there. But we're very excited about the upcoming program and to share it with you today. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. And I noted Councillor Lane's comments before about how marvellous the facility is and how we've really enjoyed already the great events that have been hosted external, and we can't wait until we're starting to move inside the facilities. I have a question from Councillor Herremeyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Does this document need to be tabled?
I'm very happy to table this document. Thank you, Councillor Herremeyer. I also appreciate your rigour around governance and so on. I probably need a bit of support in that space myself. So, councillors, you'll note that the Director has passed around the season program for Kingston Butter Factory. That is dated May to August 2022. Could I have a mover that I'll call it a brochure, I suppose, that this brochure will be tabled for discussion? Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Herremeyer. Seconded by Councillor Bannon. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Fantastic. Thank you. That has been supported unanimously. Would anybody like to speak to the, I'm wanting to call it document. What will I call it, Katie? The program. Thank you. I was a bit stuck for words. Would anyone else like to speak to the program? No. Do I have Councillor Bradley? Sorry, I didn't see you there, Councillor Bradley. I'm hiding behind that water bottle is my problem.
I'm just curious why it's upside down on one side halfway through. What's the rationale there?
Great question, Councillor Bradley. It's designed so that if you read it from so the one side of the document, if you open it up, it addresses the KVF, and if you reverse it from a double-sided page perspective, you can read about the LEC. So we're trying to provide one program for both facilities rather than having two programs.
Awesome. Thank you.
I thought it was so we could get the Mayor's message out twice, Ben. Excellent. Do we have any other further questions with regard to the program?
Oh. Yeah, that's right. Is that what you're missing out, Mr. Mayor?
I thought they were the same one. I thought, oh, that can't be right.
I'm really pleased to see that the Mayor's comms department is working overtime. Councillors, can I just say I'm so excited by the program that we've got coming up now. I know we've had many fits of starts with rain and also with COVID, but this is an amazing program, and I'm hoping that you can get along to as many of these events as you can. And please, as Ben said, please push it out through your socials. Ben acknowledged the power councillors have to spread their messages far and wide, so please celebrate the great news. Any further GB, Ben?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That completes the agenda for today, but that being said, does anyone have any general business for the Director of Community Services? There being none, I think the Director may have some GB for you, however. Thank you, Katie.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Karansky, and good morning, councillors. I'd like to take you an opportunity to provide you a quick update with a couple of matters. The first is the current call wait times for the community when contacting the customer experience team. We had some recent challenges with regard to COVID illnesses, and we've implemented processes to reduce waiting times created through the high call volumes that we typically get around this time of year for the rates. And I'm proud to tell you that the team have now got the call wait times to under a minute. So I thank the team, and I thank you for your patience, and I thank the community for the patience. I'd also like to give you a quick update on parks with regard to this wet weather that we're experiencing. The continued wet ground conditions are making things very challenging for projects and for planned events. Over the weekend, most planned events were unfortunately delayed or cancelled. Mowing operations have continued where possible, even though the rain has slowed. But as you're seeing in newspaper articles as recently as today, contractors are having trouble across saturated grounds. So therefore they're focusing their efforts on mowing road verges and higher sections of parks which aren't as waterlogged. In parks where there's just no chance of mowing without significant damage to the parks, contractors have been requested to cut around pathways or walkways where it's safe to do so. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie, for providing a proactive report with regard to the mowing. I'm sure that councillors will be fielding questions in no time. And also I appreciate the update on the call wait times and down to 1 minute. That's fantastic. So hopefully we can be consistent in that space. Do councillors have any questions for the Director? Thank you, Councillor Lane.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thanks for the update on the mowing. It sometimes can be quite a contentious issue out there in the community, and people don't understand why we mow, 4 inches high when the grass can be mowed so much lower. But if contractors are having a hard time of it in the wet, it's unsafe for them to mow in particular places. I like the idea of them cutting back around the footpaths at least, so that people with mobility scooters and just generally parents walking their kids to school can get there and relatively dry in this weather. So thanks very much for that.
Thank you, councillors. Any other comments before we close? There being none, I'd now declare the City Lifestyle Committee meeting of the 18th of May concluded at 9:47 a.m. The meeting of the City Governance Committee will commence in 10 minutes. Thank you for your attention, everyone.